Hey everybody, welcome to another video review, a special one. This is the T-800 endoskeleton from Cinemaquette. Cinemaquette is now ECC, but back when they were Cinemaquette, with George Song as the CEO, they were known as a boutique, very, very high-end collectibles company. They pioneered a lot of things. Some of them, not the most successful, but they definitely, I think, in my opinion, moved collecting forward. And they were a bit ahead of their time, actually. They were the first ones to do 1/3 scale, and made that a viable scale to produce. In those days back then, 1/4 scale dominated the market. It was felt that 1/3 scale was simply too large and impractical, that there was no market for it. And they didn't exactly prove that wrong. I mean, they obviously didn't reach the same market share as Sideshow Collectibles, but they showed that it was indeed viable. And they also were the ones who pioneered silicone human characters with real, human hair, punched-in hairlines, eyelashes and beard and glass eyes. The likenesses were very problematic, but I believe that they were, again, the precursors to the modern, high-end silicon pieces from companies like Infinity Studios and, of course, J&D Studios. And for their non-human pieces, like this T-800 endoskeleton, they always went above and beyond. They always took pride in kind of, delivering the best version possible. Their pieces from the Alien franchise, the Cinemaquette Predator from Steve Wang's Vision, and of course this Terminator 2 Judgment Day endoskeleton are all grails, all legendary pieces for those who understand these things. Why is this piece so special? We'll get into the details obviously a little bit later on. That's what this channel is all about when we're doing statues, is going into detail. But this is from Terminator 2 Judgment Day. You don't have cheap licenses. A lot of times modern day companies, to save money on the licenses, they really want to just produce a T-800 endoskeleton, but they don't want to pay for the Terminator 2 license. So what do? They get a much cheaper license, kind of a crappier license for one of the more horrible movies, whether it's, Dark Fate or, Salvation or whatnot, even T3. They just get a license from a much worse movie that's much cheaper to get, and they use that license to just create a endoskeleton. Now, you can argue that, maybe that endoskeleton is the same. We all know it's the same T-800 endoskeleton. But, in my mind, maybe I'm just a little bit, unique or picky about this, but my feeling is that license does matter. This is Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the Judgment Day license. Cinemaquette did not skimp out on that license. They paid for it. That's number one. Number two, this was supervised by Stan Winston himself. He is one of the giants in movie special effects and practical effects. He is one of the pioneers. He did special effects like the great tent poles, the great milestones in movie special effects, practical effects. Stan Winston was involved in. I suggest that you buy the book, the legacy of Stan Winston Studios. There's a book about him and all his movies to really brush up on that history. It's amazing. He was involved in creating the Alien Queen from Aliens, in the endoskeleton from T1 and T2. He did the practical effects in Steven Spielberg's original Jurassic Park. The man is a giant. He passed away too soon from cancer, lymphoma, I believe. But again, that legacy lives on. And pieces where Stan Winston, or his company, Stan Winston Studios, which later on became Legacy Effects, one of the premier special effects companies in the world, when they are involved in the approval of a collectible, then that the quality is going to be top notch. And when they were involved with pieces, I'm trying to rotate my T-800, and the gun was a little bit too much there. So sorry for the little blip. But getting back to my point, When Stan Winston or Stan Winston Studios or Legacy Effects is directly involved in a piece, you know that piece is going to be well done. It's going to be accurate. The details are going to be looked at. That's the reputation they had, and this is no different. So Stan Winston was alive for the supervision of this T-800, endoskeleton, and of other pieces further along by, say, Chronicles Collectibles, by, I don't care, Prime One, Infinity Studios. They don't have Stan Winston. They don't have necessarily the original molds. There is something lacking, that complete authenticity. And so for someone like myself who's old enough to remember Stan Winston and Stan Winston Studios with love and reverence, pieces like this will always be special, will always be, grails because of that, because you can never ever have that again. And, again, to honor that, you can see that on the back of the base, you can see his mark and his signature. It shows that, again, this was done under his supervision, and this is the unique emblem of Stan Winston Studios and was called Stan Winston Studios. So that makes it very, very special indeed. So the authenticity is there, the supervision is there, the accuracy is there, the quality is there. And let's begin by looking at the base. Some of the most awesome skulls that I've ever seen. Look at this. It's that great scene from the the Terminator 2, the Dream. I think I don't know whether I think the Dream was by Sarah Connor this time. Kyle Reese was the one who did the dreaming in T1, but I think in T2 Sarah Connor was the one who dreamed of that future. But look at all these skulls in that apocalyptic future where these killing machines are just marching through the field, cracking and stepping on these skulls. And it just looks so good, and trust me, as somebody who knows a little bit about head neck anatomy, these are just beautiful, accurate skulls down to the teeth. Look at the details. They even have the teeth. Here you have the suture lines. You have the hole, a blast mark, an entry point from a laser blast in the skull itself. So you have that, more skulls, fabulous detail from the teeth to the suture lines, beautifully painted. All these different, another skull, like it's half buried in the sand. Just completely next level, beautiful base. And of course the Stan Winston mark that I showed you earlier. All of this stuff. We're used to seeing, kind of bland bases, rocky bases, muddy bases. And that's fine. We don't want a base to, take attention away from the statue. But, look at this base. It's just, they just don't make them like this anymore, especially with all of these skulls. And each of these skulls done so well, so accurately. That's what I'm talking about. It feels like it's from the movie. And they didn't just give you one. Modern day, you wouldn't get any of that. Modern day, you would just get, just a dirt base, okay? But here, they gave you 6, 7 of them, all in different, stages of destruction, submerged in the sand. The paint and the detail of the rubble is just next level. So, hopefully you can see again the attention to detail from Cinemaquette and Stan Winston Studios. It's a heck of a start, let's just say. Now we move on to the actual piece. This is a really, really heavy piece, easily 20, 25 pounds, I would say. And again, the beauty of this endoskeleton is that it's kind of based on human anatomy. It's like the metallic version of what a human skeleton might be, except it's all in metal. And when you look at the paint job, you look at all of this, you could swear that that this was actual metal. And believe it or not, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this whole piece might actually be chrome, and I think it is. If not solid chrome, then definitely the surface is chrome, because here you see he's definitely battle damaged. You can definitely see not just the dust, but the smears and that type of thing. But if you were to clean it with a very, very fine steel wool, and collectors in the past have done it, they've changed, this kind of battle damaged, oily, greasy endoskeleton into bright, shiny chrome. So that's insane. These days, chrome, electroplating in chrome is just simply not done. It's way too pricey. It's never done on a mass market level. You have to go to like specialty, factories to do that. It's just, in my opinion, it's just not a thing anymore. Not even at the level of, custom pieces. They do chrome paint, but they're not going to do like electroplating. And so the fact that you're able to, take it down and shine it up and buff it up, so it's like, completely bright chrome, is really amazing. So the finish is amazing. You're not going to find another piece like this in modern times. All these pieces are going to be polystone. They're very unlikely to be completely all like, chromed out or metallic, okay? And then of course, the detail that Stan Winston demands and that Cinemaquette, was able to deliver. Look at the fine detail of these bones of the legs, the tarsals and the metatarsals. And that's kind of the genius of Stan Winston, is that he created this piece that's like uniquely metallic, but also it gives you this hint that it could also be, from a human being as well, right? It's a kind of like that perversion of human anatomy in a metallic form. It's a metallic skeleton. You can see the sort of the pistons on the side. That's reminiscent of the fibula, and then the large steel plates that kind of represent the tibia right over here, right? And look at the oil marks. Look at the detail of the paint and all of this up, and you can see the joints, right? And then the femur, the thighs, the pistons on the side. And then the hips, the pelvis. So it's sort of like, this, again, weird amalgamation of human anatomy, but the metallic interpretation. It's like Skynet interpreting human anatomy, but making it better in its own twisted thinking. And remember that this endoskeleton the reason they call it an endoskeleton is it's an endoskeleton that serves as the foundation upon which you can actually put a human body, so it actually does fit. Moving up, again, take a look at these hands. Again, absolutely stunning. All metallic versions of, a real hand. Look at all this, and then the pistons, again, all the way here. Look at the joints, all the way to the shoulders. This is actually real wire you can take out, so each of these arms can be removed, and you have the pistons that you actually put right in here in place. Then the gun, holding the gun right over here. You can take a look here. You can even have the index finger around the trigger. The gun itself is polystone. I'm looking at the outside of it, just lingering over all of that fine detail, the front, the back. It's just a monumental achievement, in statue form, moving back. You can look at the chest, all the pistons. Look at all the detail here. The screws. It looks real. And then finally, of course, the teeth, the eyes. This is, how good is this? With the wires sort of giving you this hint of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. The jawline. As somebody who owns the Stan Winston Studios 1:1 scale endoscope, this is a stunning, reproduction of it at 1/3 scale. Look at the depth of the casting and the details that all come through. I owned the life-size version from Sideshow Collectibles. I owned it for quite a few years before selling it, and it's just, stunning. But the 1/3 scale, the Cinemaquette, is still superior in terms of detail to the life size even, which is just remarkable. Look at all of this. To my knowledge, it's still, at the time, a few years ago, this was the only endoskeleton with a full vertebral column, from the neck all the way down. Most collectibles give you this, but here, when you look in, it's actually just solid plastic. But if you look closely enough, you can see that actually they do actually have the entire vertebral column. And I'm going to try to take a little bit of a flashlight with my other phone, and hopefully you can see it. So hopefully you can see with the light overhead that you can see the vertebral columns. You can see that there are separate vertebral columns all the way down. It's not just black plastic, which, by the way, is what that's what the case was with the Sideshow life size. So look at this. I'm going back. You can actually definitely see the vertebral column all the way on the inside, all the way down. You can see the thoracic, as well as the lumbar. So again, that's pretty amazing. Let me see if we can look at it from this angle. Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely you can see the vertebral column all the way here. Going from this angle, you can see it really, really well. This is with the light. Even without the light, you can see the vertebral column there. So that's a small detail that a lot of people will probably not bring up. But if you love the T-800, you will see that. Now, to be fair, once I bought this, I wasn't interested in anything else. I got the life-size version. I got the Cinemaquette version. From my opinion, why look at anything else? So I never went ahead and bought the endoskeleton with the black paint, or endoskeleton from Terminator, 4 or 5 or 6 or any of that stuff. So I don't know if those matches, the level of precision and the quality. I really doubt it. I think those are mainly polystone. I've heard that maybe Infinity Studios is going to come out with a 3rd scale, endoskeleton. I wish them the very best, and it might be very, very good, but in my opinion, with time, I think the factories get more expensive. I think that the shortcuts are more prevalent. They sure as heck do not have Stan Winston Studios there. I don't see Prime 1 Studios making a piece with that attention to detail that this has. I don't see them making it for $1,000. Like that was the retail price for this, back when it first came out. I don't see Infinity Studios doing that. I think that there is going to be small shortcuts. I don't think that this piece's status as a grail for anyone who wants a T-800 endoskeleton. That's not going to change. This is still the bar. This is still the standard by which all is measured. And when you look at it now from top to bottom, in all its glory, I think that you will see that this is the case. He's so big, unfortunately, I can't even get a complete body shot, but there you go. Now, if you want to blast from the past, one of the nitpicks of this statue was that the pose was a bit awkward. He kind of had this little weird pose, and I never, had a problem with that. I mean, I feel like this was something that to me felt pretty natural. This was a pose that I could see him striking as he's marching. He's looking to the side. Each piece by Cinemaquette is a little bit different. So there's one where the head might be a little bit, more centered. One of the Cinemaquette's weaknesses, by the way, is the light up. Their light ups are always very cheap, very, very straightforward. Had this piece for over, I think, 12, 13 years. I have a AA battery on the base that's already long since dead. There's a simple button on the back that you press to get the current on, and then basically it's just 2 eyes. It just lights up. So nothing too remarkable. It doesn't do that really cool fade out that the life-size version from Sideshow does, for instance. And for those of you who've been very attentive, you know that I recently had wrist surgery to correct decorative synovitis. I'm only day 1 from the bandages being removed. And I just simply, I'm not going to be able to lift this thing safely to turn the base and put in new batteries. So my apologies, you're not going to have the benefit of seeing these 2 little eyes light up. but they do light up, just so you know, but that's not what makes this piece fantastic. So anyways, I'm just trying to do my best to slowly turn him around. You can see him, you saw all of the close-ups, but seeing him from a distance, having a little bit of that panoramic view does also help. You can see the base, you can see all of that. Very, very good. So there you have it, the T-800 endoskeleton. It's one of my, it's definitely, my favorite, obviously, Terminator piece, but it's one of my favorite pieces of all time. And I still really just enjoy looking at it every time. I'm really happy to finally be able to get around and do a video review of this. I have put it in a place in my house that's a little bit more inaccessible. And so I'm glad I took the time to take this down and almost like, relearn my love for this piece. It's just quite exceptional, quite amazing. Believe it or not, I actually have a second version of this. I have two of these. This one is, I believe, the numbered edition. I actually, from some place in, I forget where it was, in the Los Angeles area. I think I might have actually gotten, or I might have owned, or I might have bought one of the prototype samples that was owned by Stan Winston himself. Apparently, for this T-800 endoskeleton, they made two sample pieces to show the factories in China how to properly recreate it. And one was George Sons, the CEO of Cinemaquette at the time, and the other was for Stan Winston. Now, George obviously still has his version, and I got another version that is absolutely a sample. There was no box associated with it. I picked it up in person, in hand, from a gentleman in Ventura, I believe. And this would have been around the time of Stan Winston's passing. I don't know how he managed to get his hands on it. I don't know the particular details. I don't recall that being auctioned. A lot of Stan Winston's collection was auctioned to raise funds to start the Stan Winston School, for special effects. And so I can't tell for certain, but I know that my piece was a legit sample. You look at the base, it says sample, but from all of the the lore, there were only two ever made, and since George never let go of his, I can only assume that I actually somehow came by the one that Stan Winston himself got, which for someone who loves Stan Winston as much as me, it's just like an unbelievable story and an unbelievable opportunity. And I still have that one, and that one's head is turned a little bit differently. So those are the two that kind of those are the little details that differentiate the two. And I think maybe another video when my wrist is more recovered, I'll put the two endoskeletons side by side, so you'll have a chance to take a look at that. But it's like a pretty amazing piece of I guess memorabilia history. And I would welcome if somebody stumbles on this in the following, in the future, in the following years. If somebody could say I'm wrong or I'm right, I would love that, because again, there's no certificate of authenticity. Obviously, this was Stan's personal piece. He kept it on his desk, and so he didn't care about such things. There wouldn't have been anything like that. All it says on the base is a sample, a sample, like I think 2 of 2 or 1 of 1. I have to look at the base, but it definitely was there. So somebody can disprove it or say, oh yeah, they made more than 2. It's not, you don't have the one by Stan Winston, which I don't care. I mean, I love the fact that I have 2 of them. That's how much I love this piece. I love the fact that I have one of the the so-called prototype samples. That would be okay too. But if nobody corrects me, and if it gets to the point where it's like, yeah, you may have the one by Stan Winston, I mean, that would be an amazing story as well. So there you go. There are a couple of reviews on this. I mean, Rafael Robledo has a really cool YouTube review. This is an older piece. There are YouTube reviews that are out there, but it's 2023, and I just wanted to put this out there to remind people, don't forget about these classics. Even as the newer companies are thinking to reinvent the wheel, don't forget that these pieces will forever hold their stature because they were created by the original designers themselves. And this one by Stan Winston himself. And there's no mistaking the quality that went into making this collectible a reality. So there you have it. Cinemaquette 3rd scale T-800 endoskeleton from Terminator 2. Hope you enjoyed that blast from the past. And until next time, do take care.